So good evening. It's good that we can continue what we have started a few days before. And I always like to summarize so that we understand about what we are speaking. First, we want to know how humanity is built. And we saw that humanity is made out of two parts. One is a spiritual part and one is a physical part. The two parts meet and work together on cortex level in our head. And here is the soul, here is the activity. Everything comes here and everything starts from here. And we have seen that the spirit was made to be the ruler and to be responsible for what the body does or not does. Because the body is just a physical element, has no responsibility for what he's doing or not doing. But the spirit has the responsibility for what he's doing with his body. So the two work together. And we saw that the disease that we have, the most common diseases that we have, come because in our spirit there is an error. We believe that others are responsible that our need for love should be fulfilled. We think that our need for love is satisfied by being loved. We always speak, when we speak about love, of being loved. I observed this when I started to counsel my patients, to ask them. I observed that everyone that speaks that he is loved. At a meeting once, a lady came to me and she had different type of diseases. She had allergies and other issues. And then she asked me, what's the problem? And of course I said, that is a lack of love in your system. And her answer was, but I have enough people that love me. And I said, that's not the problem. You can have thousands of people that love you, that benefits them. Your benefit you have when you love. And are there persons in your life you don't love? And then he said, yes, I have. I said, that's the lack of love. Because you see, when we go deeper into the heart of man, we have to understand it's never the action of another one that can satisfy our need. Not even the action of God. Because God has not created us, He should feed us. Neither spiritually nor physically. God has made us that we should feed ourselves. By taking and giving. By taking and giving. We were not made that the bananas should grow into our mouth. Were we made for that? The waters come and flow in? No. We have to go to search for that. We have to work for that. We have to do something for that. So, on spiritual level, will you ever acquire knowledge if you don't learn anything? Will you? No. By staying home and doing nothing, wisdom will not come. You have to go somewhere, you have to search, you have to take before you can give. So the deception that is at the bottom of our disease is that we expect that others should please us. Others should do us good. Others should love us. And so, when we are rejected, that is the heaviest problem that we have. Now, on the surface, that is our main issue. I could see in the life of many people that I counsel that on the surface, the thought that was in their mind was, I am not being loved. And it's enough if you have one person that doesn't love you, and so then you cannot love that person to become sick. It's enough. If that person is something that you are it's very special in your life, then you can have all major diseases just from that one relationship. So, now let us go a step further. Between the spirit and the body, there is a relationship that they somewhere meet so that they co-work together. And that is called in the Bible the heart. In science, well, science has not the spirit, but they say it's the subconscious where we think and act for our life. And I want to present tonight to start to enter into that field that we are not conscious of, but we can make it conscious because it is made plain as well in the Bible and as well in the literature of Ellen White. So, where is the center? Where is the heart of man? I must tell you, this is the most, so to say, subject that I like and I dwell on. Because everything starts in the heart. And if in the heart the start is good, everything is good. But if in the heart the start is wrong, everything is wrong. So let us look how our hearts function, not the pump, but where the spirit and the body meets. How did I discover where they meet and how it works? I did not even search for it, but you know, sometimes it's not given necessary when you search a certain thing. I searched to know the cause of disease, but the Lord just had to help me to find it at the right place. So, at the beginning, when I was continuing my consultations and counseling with my patients, I was having the idea that the diseases come from different causes. Would you have the same idea? Yes. One cause or many causes? Many causes. And so I put my patients in groups. I put here the groups of tinnitus. I don't know if this is the English, but it's the German word. Tinnitus? Tinnitus. And then we have here the group of dizziness. And then we have here the group of people with thyroid or neck or throat, whatever. I put people in groups. That's how medical doctors do this, yes? They put those in groups that have the same disease. And of course I wanted to search out to find what do they have in common denominator. And so I searched in every group to find out what was their common problem. And I found common problems in every group. And I got excited. But at the end of 2007, and I started 2004, I made the observation that every group had the same common thought at the root of their problem. So it didn't matter if they were dizzy, or they had this noise in the ear, if they had the throat or neck, or then the cancer, whatever, I put them into my groups. Their common denominator on thought level was always the same. One thought. So what did I do with my groups? After I found out that their issue came from the same thought, I could forget them. That simplified my life. I don't do groups anymore. I just have 4 groups. I just have inheritance, environment, chemistry, and spirit. And those diseases that come from the spirit, they have only one cause. So it doesn't matter if you have diabetes or a heart attack. The cause is the same. That's hard to believe for every doctor. That's hard to believe for someone who is not a doctor. But I cannot make it otherwise, because that's how I found it out. So what is this one thought? And by this one thought, when I discovered it, and it took me 4 months to be sure that this is the only thing that is a common thing in the life of man. So by this thought, I came to understand that the human being has the following structure. So we have here the body, the big part of it. Then we have here the cortex, and I paint only one side, but both sides have the same principle. And here we have the cells and the wires, the nerves that go into the body to conduct the body. And now, since these cells are all connected to each other, and each one of these billions of cells have 400,000 or until 400,000 of connection to other cells, it could possibly be that they are so arranged in the cortex that from one cell you can conduct all cells. It could be a possibility. I am not convinced it is so, but I tend to believe that it is so. But if it is or not so, in the end it doesn't matter. That's the physical part. I know that the spirit can conduct the body only through one thought. So he can bring in his information only through one way. And so he conducts the whole body through one way he can conduct it, through one thought. So that makes the human being to get back to this center. And this center is called the heart, or the subconscious. So, for those who are Bible readers or that know the Bible, where does the Lord look when he looks to a man? Why does he look to the heart? Because here everything starts. He doesn't look to your hand, does he? But Samuel looked to the tall guy. So this is it. This is the man. And the Lord said, I don't look to his muscles. I just look to his heart. Men look at from outside, but the Lord looks to the heart. So we want to know this heart where the Lord looks in. Where he says through Solomon, my son, give me thine heart. It doesn't say give me thy feet. When you get married, what do you want? The feet or the heart? Yes? So it's good to have both, but when you have the heart, how much do you have? You have everything, because you have the center where everything flows out. So the Bible speaks very much about the heart. I would encourage you to take it and read how much it is written about the heart. I think about 800 times, I'm not sure, or 400 times, but look it up. In the Bible, the heart is a very, very important thing. And it does not speak about the heart as the pump in our chests, but it speaks about the place where life comes out. Solomon says, keep thy heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues of life. But how shall I keep my heart with all diligence if I don't know how it works? So obviously Solomon knew how it worked. And I find it that he knew it very well how it worked. But we have not found it out how it worked until the Lord has helped me to see it from the body perspective, from the disease perspective. So I came up with the following picture or following scheme of the heart. This is the conscious, and this is the subconscious. So the one in the conscious, we have our will. And the will is a combination of body and spirit. The will is there where we work together. And in the will, in the consciousness, every need that we have must become conscious. So if we have the need for water, you must become conscious that you need water, do you? When you had the need of, maybe here some warmth, yes? Then you become conscious of it. I'm always in need of warmth. And I'm glad that before I left, I just had a short prayer. I said, Lord, what shall I take? Shall I take this sweater with me? And I took it. I'm so glad you don't see it under this, but it keeps me warm. So you have to take a decision then when you have a need. And you take the decision consciously to do that, but the way you take the decision, you are not conscious of. But before you take the decision, you must be aware of what you need. And even in the will, we have our spiritual needs, and I have the concept or the idea that there is one spiritual need that is most important in each human's life. That's at the beginning. And it's with me, it's harmony, but I also need righteousness. I also need truth. I also need security. And I also need whatever we need, control, and so on. And in the will, in the conscious, we are all singular personalities. There is not one human the same in his personality. You agree with that? Yes. It's like in the body. There is no body the same like the other one. Not even in singular twins, how you call it? Identical twins. Okay? So we are here all different. But this doesn't matter how we are here. Because that is just the expression of the function. What matters is what we are in our heart, that is in the subconscious. And in the subconscious, since there is the function of the humanity, there we are all the same. And in the subconscious, we have the place where it is shown to us how we take all of our decisions that we do in our life. And the green is always the body. And we said that we have to do electricity, and we can do electricity only between the plus and the minus, because the body is out of atoms. And so we have here the spirit. And I say this is me. And the spirit needs to guide the body by a thought that is one times positive and one times negative. And I discovered in all the stories of my patients that they had one common thought at the bottom of it. Which thought did I discover? The positive thought or the negative thought? Why the negative? Because who made us sick? The positive or the negative? You see, the positive doesn't make you sick, and you will see what the positive thought is. The negative thought is loss. And the positive thought is gain. How much people go for gain when they have too much gain to the psychiatrist or to the psychologist for counseling? When you gain something, do you have any need to go to somewhere to counsel you? There is no need. You never find a person that is in gain at any of these places. You only find a person that has a loss in this place. So we can see this very beauty on our brain. whenever we have a gain, what kind of power do we make to our nervous system? Good power or bad power? Good power. We get what kind of feeling? Very good feeling. The hormone system here in the center of the brain, they just work very, very well. They say, this is it. And they give back to the spirit through good feeling, give us more of this thought. And when you think loss, what happens to your body? You don't feel good. You have bad feelings. And this is how the system works. So, you need now to pay attention because it's important to understand this process. Whatever comes to the spirit, he needs to evaluate. And he has only two places to put the things. Either in gain or in loss. After he has put the things into one of the areas, his decision was done. Because in the moment he says, this is a gain, he says, yes. And the electricity is made. You can see a action potential. You can see an electrical movement that you were not there before, but it happened that you said yes. In the moment you have put the gain, the spirit says yes, zack, you already did your decision and it's gone. In the moment you say, oh, this is a loss, you must say no. And in a moment you say no, you don't move. You don't do it. So every decision that a human does is just yes and no in his heart. Just yes and no in his heart. So the only thing the human has to do, the spirit of man has to do, is to put the information that comes to him in one of these areas. After he has put them in the area, he knows the yes is determined for the gain and the no is determined for the loss. He can never say yes to the loss and no to the gain. This is by construction. It's not possible. But of course you think it's possible, because that's how we think. We don't think by function. So everything comes just what happens, what is the measurement the Spirit uses to put anything into a gain or into a loss. So before you put it, you have a filter, you have a measurement. Yes, you have an eyesight. And that eyesight shows you how you get to gain and how you get to loss. So that's what takes the information and filters it, the sight, that says to you what is a gain or how you get to gain, and then of course also on what is a gain and a loss. That determines how you put the things in, and when the things are in, your decision is done. So there is the deepest point in human being is the filter, is the measurement through what he evaluates the information that comes to him. You know the story from the lady that heard that the grandchildren come to visit. And where did she put the grandchildren? Into gain. And so she said, yes. And she was happy. Her blood sugar dropped. She was exactly in the right place to be. Do you think man was made for gain or for loss? He was made for gain. Now, let us see what was and what is the filter that you need, or the measurement that you need to put the things in the right place so that you don't get confused. And I will take here the example of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had the same heart that we have. Is this me, or may I say Eve or Adam, whatever, you understand. So they have here gain and loss. Plus and minus. So they have a yes for the gain and a no for loss. So God created them like this. So He said to them in the conscious, He said to them to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil is what? To eat is to eat from the tree of good and the knowledge of good and evil. So, and not to eat not to eat from the tree of good knowledge, good and evil, is gain. He said, if you don't eat, you live. If you eat, you die. Is that a clear expression what is the gain and the loss? Yes. He says, from all other trees you can eat, doesn't matter. So that is God here. Now the serpent comes. What's her suggestion? What's her suggestion? You said if you eat, you have gain, and when you do not eat, then you have the loss. So, what's the choice of Eve? So, you see, the devil doesn't come to her promising her death, does he? Do we have a need here in our spirit of wisdom? Do we? Do we need to fulfill that need? Yes, I would like to be wise, more wise. So, but how do I get to that? No, the tree is just a symbol for wisdom or not wisdom, good and evil, knowledge. Yes, and we have a need for knowledge. Why do you read papers or why do you read the news? That's not a good knowledge, but you do it because you have a need for it. If you don't have a need for it, you would read it. Yes? Yes. So, what is the choice of Eve? When the serpent says, Eve, do you want to remain stupid? You know, I speak it with my words. You really want to stay like this? Is she speaking to her need? Yes. I said, oh, I'm not stupid. I do exactly the will of God. Everything is fine with me. I said, oh, do I miss something? And yes, the devil says, you miss something. You miss to be like God. And now Eve needs to make a decision. And what is her only decision that she has to do? What is her decision? What is the only decision that a man has? Now you have two opinions. The one says this is gain, and the other says the opposite is gain. What do you have for a decision? Help me. Who you going to believe? Yes? Whom do you going to believe or trust? That's your action. Who did Eve believe? Eve believed that the serpent will give her wisdom. And she must disbelieve God because the two things are mixable or opposite. They are totally opposite. So, when Eve came to Adam, what should have Adam done? He said, oh, Eve, what have you done? But Eve comes and says, oh, look, Adam, to me. I'm more beautiful than ever. My tongue now is loose. And she might have lulled him over. I don't know if that's in English, to just say many words and convince him. And now Adam looks to Eve and says, well, she doesn't look so stupid. She's not that yet. Maybe Eve is right. Who did Adam believe? He believed Eve and not God. If Adam would have been convinced that this is the truth, would he have ever eaten? Could he have ever eaten? Never. You only go for gain. You will never say yes to eat if you know to eat is loss. You cannot. It's impossible. You can only eat because you believe a lie when to eat is a loss. So, I want just to make you clear the mechanism, how we were made, so that we understand from the beginning. From the beginning, the choice of man was whom he would trust for wisdom and how to get it. And he was tempted, but he could have said, I'm sorry, serpent. I'm sorry, Eve. I know this is the truth. I cannot eat from this even though I die. But neither Adam nor Eve were fully in the trust of God. They mistrusted God. They disbelieved God. And so they believed the devil. And by that belief, their hearts were changed. And the changing of their hearts we inherit until today. And we will see what that change implies. So, the choice of man is in whom he trusts, what is a gain, and how he gets to a gain or to a loss. Now, when Jesus was on earth, he explained the same thing in the Sermon on the Cross, on the Mount. When I first discovered that this is the heart of man, that is just between gain and loss, I went to God and said, Lord, where is it written in the Bible that the heart just functions between gain and loss, and that we have only yes and no as a decision? And you know where he led me? Into the Sermon on the Mount. You know that in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, your word should say yes, yes, and no, no, and everything else is from where? From the evil. But in the Sermon on the Mount, in the center of this sermon, from Matthew, starting Matthew 6:19, it says, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, because they can be stolen and wrath and moth can eat them. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust can eat them, nor thieves can steal them. Because where your treasure is, your heart is also. So the treasure is gain. Yes? We have to go for a treasure. Does God say you're not allowed to have a treasure? No. The treasure are the spiritual needs that we have. Yes? Those are a gain. But now, he says, if we put treasures on earth, why should we have no treasures on earth? What's the only reason for not having a treasure on earth? You can lose him. Because what happens with you if you lose the treasure? You lose your life. Because you can say no loss. You can say no to the loss of that treasure. And if you lose your treasure, you lose your life. That's very simple, is it? So, when I discovered that Jesus knew how he was created us, and he discovers us in the Sermon on the Mount, that look, your whole life is sweeping around what? About your treasure. And what is the highest treasure to attain? Love. We are going for love. You see, when God came to Abraham, what did he tell him? Can you remember? He came to him and said, I am your great treasure. I am your great reward. Because from God you can get wisdom, from God you can get knowledge, From God you can get everything you need. So the treasure is not something physical, the treasure is something spiritual, because the Spirit goes after the treasure. But he then makes, or he has in his heart, because he's born like that, he searches for earthly treasures. And earthly treasures can be lost. And I tell you, my patients are sick. The sicker they are, the greater the treasure they lost. That's how it works. And why should we not search for treasures on earth? Because they're not eternal. If you do anything to secure treasures on earth, you might not get the treasure that is spiritual and heavenly treasure. But then Jesus continues to speak about the heart there in Matthew 6 from 22. He says, the eye is the light of the body. If your eye will be single or healthy, your whole body will be light. But if your eye will be evil, your whole body will be in darkness. And if that which should be light is darkness, how great is that darkness? You cannot serve two masters. You either serve the one or hate the other, please the one or displease the other. I don't know exactly the word, the text. Despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. And mammon is the sum of all earthly treasures. But since these things are in our heart, we are not perceiving them as wrong. Tell me, did Jesus speak, when he speaks from the eye here, does he speak from this eye? Or is he just using this eye as an example for the eye of the heart? Are you with me? So it's just an example. This eye cannot be evil. It can be sick, it cannot see. But he says the place where light should be is total darkness. Then how great is the darkness? And Jesus says he come to the earth to save the blind. The blind physically or the blind spiritually? It's evident he didn't come to make the physical blinds to see, even though he did that too. He made the spiritual blinds to see, because the blindness is in ourselves that we don't see. And the eyesight here, we have two possibilities. We have the single eye and we have the evil eye. And Jesus says in Mark 7 that in the heart is the evil eye. There you can find that it's there in the heart. I found this in time, how it worked practically in my practice. So I can define the evil eye and I can define the single eye. So let's see what do you think is the evil and what is the single eye. The one eyesight says you gain when you receive. And the other eye says you gain when you give. So what's the right eye? When do you gain? When you receive or when you give? Now, you might be true in your knowledge, but let's see, since all actions are coming from the heart and you must obey your heart, we can make a test. If you believe in your heart, giving is gain or receiving is gain. We have here two doors where we can go out this room. And on one door you give $1,000. And the other one you receive $1,000. What would you choose? You will not go to where is loss. You can only go where is gain. Now, of course, you haven't heard it, but you could write a check. But, however, you understand where your heart would go? Where would we go? You would go for receiving. You would not say, oh, I'm so happy I can get rid of this $1,000 act. I still wanted to do that. No. You would say, what can I buy with? We just recently, when we were in the States, in October, we had to fly from South Bend to Miami, and the flight was overbooked, and there were 3 tickets that were overbooked. And somehow they got rid of 2, but the one was still not finding a volunteer. And so they offered $800. And then still no one showed up. And they offered $1,000. And my wife was very occupied, thank God, because when I told her, she said, let me go, I pay $1,000. I come tomorrow, doesn't matter. I said, no, we have no time to lose. But would you not be tempted? They give you free accommodation and they give you $1,000 cash. Yeah? And you still fly, but you fly a day later. So you see, you cannot get volunteers if you don't give them something. Can you? But $1,000, you know? She said, $1,000. She made all the, I could buy this and this and this. This is worth it, is it? No, it was not worth it for me, so I didn't tell her until we were in the airplane. Or just shortly I just shared to her, I said, look, they were searching for the person, and they gave him $1,000. Oh, where is it? So, you see, receiving is what we are going for. Yes? Receiving is what we are going for. So, if receiving is gain, what is the opposite? What is loss? It is not receiving. Or receive too less. Or something is taken away. Of course, from me. What would be the opposite of give? No? Not to give. Or keep. So, these are the two eyesights. This is the evil eye, and this is the truth, the single I. This is truth. This is error. Now, why is the one eye better than the other one? What eye would you prefer? Pardon? Why would you prefer this eye? Why would you prefer this eye? You know, just from function, looking at what's the difference between the two eyes? What is the one giving to you and what is the other one taking from you?
Light. The single eye gives me light. The other eye gives me darkness.
That's correct, but in what is darkness and light? Because we have to bring it down to a practical term. What? Yes, but in which lies life and death? But you look at these two things. What is the difference between the one eye and the other eye? Pardon? I know this is hard questions, but yes, but what is this eye giving to you and what is this taking away from you? Oh, this is a very hard question. I cannot put this. Yes. Now, Dr. Marx says it correctly. The one gives you control over your life, and the other one takes the control away from your life. Because whose action are giving and taking? Whose actions? Mine. When you receive something, whose action is it? When you do not receive, whose action is it? You see why you get sick? You get sick not because you lose your yes. Yes? As long as you believe you receive enough and you think that's how you get your gain, you don't get sick. You are not in a trouble. But what happens here, when others make you lose, you lose what? You lose the control of your no. You see, the no says to you, here is the border. But here others are passing the border. You can say no to your grandchildren when they want to come. As long as you want, they will still come. But you will feel how? Miserable if you don't like it. You lose the capacity of your no. And when you have no, you cannot control your loss. Because you lose the capacity of control because you believe others have made you a loss. What is hurting? What is a hurt? A loss or a gain? A loss. Who hurted you? Someone else. Could you avoid it? Can you avoid that I can come and give you a slap? You can run away. But can you avoid the action of another one to steal your car? Can you avoid that?
Yes, I could by moving the car.
Yeah, but the day before. So that's an illusion. So that's so important. We cannot avoid what others are doing. But if others can do us a hurting, then we lose our know, and we are sad, and we must destroy ourselves. Let's look to the examples that we had. We had the lady that came from North Germany to South Germany because of the boyfriend. Why did she come? To give or to receive? She came to receive. And as long as she received, how was she feeling? How were her thoughts? They were good thoughts. But then she hears that her boyfriend is betraying her. He is taking something away from her? Yes or no? Yes, we think. When he goes and sleeps with another woman, we think he takes something from her away. And so she gets into a situation of a loss. And who gets sick? She gets sick because she cannot avoid her own loss. While there is a law or a construction how God made us, you are the only one that can make you loss and can avoid loss. One of the great things in 2007 at the end when I discovered this was, and it was a great relief when I realized it consciously, that no one can make me loss. Only I can do myself loss. That was such a great thought, and I checked it, and I check it until now, and I find it the truth. Even though my heart betrays me until today, that I think when the cats are on the table, I have a loss. Or when they run through all the house and I cannot control them. You see, we must understand that God made us to have full control over ourselves. The lie takes away the control. And when others are doing something wrong, you want to avoid that because you have no choice. You have to avoid it. But can you do it? No. And then you get down and you hurt your own body and your own nervous system. Because you want to control then whom? Whom? The other one. You want control the other one. Can you? Thank God you cannot. No one can control another person. It's impossible. But we would like to do it, would we? We would, for the good sake, to do it. I had recently a conversation with one of my colleagues. She is a young lady, 30 years old. I think about 30 years old. And she got married with another doctor. They were in the university together, and they got married. They have a child. And I don't know, a year or two ago, her husband left her. And just a few weeks ago, I think, she called me and said, I cannot stop weeping. And she told me, she said, the worst thing that could happen happened. I pray to God it should never happen, that I should meet my husband and his other girlfriend in the shop. She was out in the city in a shop, shopping groceries, and there she met him and his new girlfriend. And he just presented her very, this is my ex-wife. And that was it, and then they separated, they departed. And she said, that made me to feel myself so humbled, so humiliated. I cannot bear it. I cannot stop weeping. It's such a pain. And now she knows my understanding of the human being, but she still, you know it and I know it. I mean, when you know something, it's not that you already can do something. So that she was weeping and she was feeling humbled, was it believing a lie or a truth? Say it loud as a choir. It was a lie. So whenever you weep, you might believe a lie. So she wept. She lost control because she believed her husband did what to her? He humiliated her, presenting her like a ex-wife. You like it? You know, they got divorced this year, and he did not allow her to keep her name. I mean, to keep his name, because you take his name when you marry, and when you divorce, he takes his name away from you. And she said, now I have not the same name like my daughter has. Truth or deception? Should I be unhappy for that? Should I? I should not, but I am. I am. Because I think that's another punishment, yes? He is so bad to me. And then the question is, what have I done unto him? And now talking to her, I wanted to help her to realize the deception. It's not easy when you are in such a situation to see the deception. But if you see it, at least when I am in troubles and I realize where I deceive myself, immediately I get over. Because it's, that's it. I deceive myself. I'm in self-pity. You realize it, and you can, because you go out of that. You don't want to deceive yourself. You don't want to destroy yourself. So I put her a question. And I asked her, I said, how much did you give to your husband? What was the answer? Everything. You like that? I like that. You know why? The selfish nature has something at the beginning. We will see that tomorrow because we don't have the time tonight. And it might be too much for you and for our spirit to grasp. Selfish nature gives first. But it gives to receive or to take. So I said to her, how much did you give to him? And she said, everything. And I believe it because I have spoken to so many females when a female loves, how much does she give? Everything. I cannot say that from a man. But a woman just gives everything. When she's in love, she gives everything. And so I believe it. So I said, okay, and what do we give? She was young when she got married. She gave her virginity. She gave her body. She gave her service. You know, women like to serve. They're all around serving, are they? She gave everything she had. Was it wrong to give? Was she sick when she gave? No, that's fine. Giving is gain. But why was she now sad that she gave so much? The question is just, and here is the deception. I asked her, how much did you give from yourself? What are the two options? All or none, or nothing, or all or none. So what is the right answer? When you give all, how much do you give from yourself? When you give all, how much do you give from yourself? I know that you are now in trouble. Because you would like to say all, but you think it might be wrong. What is the truth? I gave none or nothing from me. And I said, then you're free. How much you invested from yourself in that gentleman that threw all away? How much? How much to mourn over? If everything you gave was not yours, there is no need for any mourning. There is no need for any humbling or thinking that something is wrong. But you see, she believes deep in her heart, or she's convinced in her heart, that she gave something from herself. Whose body is it? Whose power do you use when you serve? Oh, it's beautiful. We are ready for heaven. You will never get upset if everything you do out of God to give. But the problem is you don't do it. At least in the moment you get into negative, you will see that you are deceived by your own heart. Because here, my wrong idea about me, my error says, I have. And I think I am the possessor of my body, and that is selfishness. Selfishness. And the other thought is, I can. I am a producer, and that is pride. And so, thinking that about you, you have something to give, so you give. But in reality, all you give is not from you. Nothing you can ever give that is yours. Nothing. that sounds good in our spirit, in our consciousness. But in our real experience, it is a very, very sad thing when we come into trouble. When a person abused me, do I have a loss by that? That is personal. Maybe we think about this till tomorrow. Whatever a person says to us, he accuses us. He blames us in front of others. He speaks bad about us behind our, how you call this? Back. Behind our back. Do you have a loss by that? Can anyone hurt you? Only if you have and can something, you can be hurt. If you possess anything, then it can be taken away from you. But if you do not possess it, it cannot be taken away from you. Because all you have is not yours. And we'll go into this more tomorrow night, because we'll have to dig deep into this error so that we might understand it when we are in trouble. Because in trouble we see where the heart is deceived. Before we can say, oh, I stand. You see, Peter, what did Peter think? Whose life was for him more precious? Christ's life or his life? Yes? And he was put into awareness, Peter, you will deny me tomorrow. And Peter said what? Oh no, Lord. Oh, never me. I'll die for you. I give my life for you. I'm ready to die. Now, did Peter know his heart? No idea. But when that little lady came and asked me, said, oh, looks like you are also a disciple of him. What came out of Peter? The evil or the good eye? The evil eye wanted to preserve what? His own life? If he would have known his life is not his own, what would he have done? Give it and stay faithful to his master. You see, Peter loved his life more than Christ's life. And he wanted to keep his life. And whoever wants to keep his life, what happens? He will lose it. And everyone who gives his life for the gospel's sake will gain it. That's why Jesus says in Luke 16, I think, 25, if you do not among others hate your own life, you cannot be my disciples. But he says there also, if you don't hate your mother and your father and your brother, your sister, and you cannot be my disciple. Well, that's a non-understood saying of Jesus. But when we understand the heart of man that Jesus spoke about, then we must know what is in our heart. There can be only one or the other. It can only be God and his law and love, or our parents and our own life. So let us go home thinking, where is our treasure? Because where our treasure is, there our heart is bound unto. That our mind spinning around cannot stop. Because that's the point where our heart is catched on. And I could tell you stories over stories from my life where my heart is catched off and I cannot stop thinking. I have to go around it and ask myself why and why and why until I realized, oh, I'm totally off-road. But that discovers unto me that my heart is on the wrong side. It's deceived by the circumstance. When I would act according to the truth, when I would orient myself according to the right measurement, I would have peace of mind. I could control it perfectly. I'm not yet there. But I believe you can reach it even earlier than me. When you understand all this, that took for me to understand 12 years. When you understand it and put into practice, you can advance fast in checking your heart, in checking your motivation, checking yourself. What is there, the principle in you? Because that what is the principle in you determines all your decisions. The heart, this I or that I, is the filter through which you do all decisions. The one is selfishness and pride, and the other one is love. The one is a lie, and the other one is a truth. But unfortunately, we are born with this, and tomorrow we will see how deep it goes, and how deceived we are, and we don't even realize it. But thank God for disease. Thank God for pain, because it helps us a lot to see the deception of our heart and say, okay, I have to get rid of this. And there is a good place for that heart. And you know that place, do you? It's the cross where that heart needs to hang on so that the truth might be in our life opened. So we are now we have 4 more nights, and I can promise you it get more deeper. We have to understand these things, and we will do it. And when we know where the bottom of all our actions come from, we must have a chance to control it and to do it right. Then we can, in reality, keep our own heart, because out of it are the issues of life. Thank you for listening.